Elections constitute an important element in liberal democracy. They are a viable means of ensuring the orderly process of leadership succession and change, as well as an instrument of political authority and legitimization. The failure of elections or their absence largely defines the predominance of political dictatorships and personalized rule in Africa. This is a past from which Nigeria has worked very hard to make a clean break. However, if the essence of elections is for the people to exercise their free will in choosing their representatives, then the charade of March 28 and April 11 in Rivers State can hardly be called elections. The people of Rivers State were supposed to exercise their free will in choosing their president and National Assembly representatives, as well as their governor and lawmakers at the state level. But twice they turned out, and twice they were brazenly robbed of the right to choose freely. Despite the fact that the Independent National Electoral Commission has declared a winner, the greater population in the state would swear that there were no elections and that at best they got bullets for ballots, intimidation and harassment, as well as widespread and well-orchestrated manipulation of the electoral process.
I got this type of sophisticated weapons.
Who came? Who was it?
The PDP support clause. Hey, God.
Where are we?
We are here. That's all.
What's the name of the village?
Ward 7. On my one. Ikure local government.
Now, what really happened in Rivers State? The story is like a tale from the jungle. It is no fiction. It happened in Rivers State during the presidential and National Assembly polls of March 28. Little did Nigerians know that it was a rehearsal for the brazen grand finale, which the governorship and House of Assembly elections of April 11, 2015 turned out to be. Gun-toting hoodlums were unleashed on Rivers State, raining bullets, destroying properties, all in a bid to intimidate, harass and stop members, supporters and sympathizers of the All Progressives Congress from coming out to exercise their right to vote a governor and lawmakers of their choice. Those who dared to challenge them were killed, maimed or had their properties destroyed. What's more intriguing is that all these were done in the full glare and with connivance of the security operatives whose responsibility it was to protect the people and the electoral process. In the early hours of the day, the people trooped out with innocent intention to vote for candidates of their choice, but they were greeted first with intimidation, which later graduated to shooting. In some cases, the armed thugs laid siege to areas where ABC members and supporters live, shooting sporadically and holding them hostage in their houses. That was the situation in Ikuru, the hometown of the deputy governor of Rivers State. The gun-wielding thugs and militants had a field day. In Rex Lawson area of Burukiri in Port Harcourt, a policeman was shot dead. 3 other persons were killed in Omagwa in Ikwere local government area. Those who were not shot dead suffered machete injuries, while some others were lucky to escape with knife stabs. It was a gory sight in Port Harcourt, Buguma, Ahoda, Okrika, Obiakpo, Abonima, Kana, and Ogbaegbema Ndoni local government areas. Rivers State became a theater of war.
And I'm very, very happy that across board, both international and local observers condemned this election. They condemned it totally, like we did here. That you can't have a situation where you know that something is wrong. INEC got all the information, enough information, at least to reschedule this election in Rivers State.
The next stage of the orchestration of mandate snatching by the PDP was to take over the electoral process. Voting materials were hijacked from the rack centers and distributed to areas other than the polling centers they were meant for. In situations where the materials could not be seized by the PDP thugs, they were simply destroyed at the distribution center to prevent their use as was the case in a Saritoro local government area.
A friend of mine was actually burnt in the INEC, at the KNC field, the building where INEC is in Buguma. A friend of mine was actually in that building when the talks came to set the place on fire. She was one of those who survived.
Ad hoc staff of the Independent National Electoral Commission were replaced with well-known PDP card-carrying members. In some cases, results were simply written in the homes and hotels of PDP stalwarts, and in other cases, in police stations.
For example, my returning officer, Mr. Cyprian Bako, is the younger brother of Chief Fred Bako, who is the head of GDI, Nyesom Wike's organization, in my local government. I mean, what kind of computer in INEC office would make that kind of mistake? And okay, even if it was a mistake, when you find out that this is what the computer did, what effort was made to correct some of these things when we pointed it out?
In many places, voters waited all day at the polling centers to cast their votes, but their wait was in vain, as voting materials had been diverted. A process where guns were freely used, even defying the presence of security operatives. An election where voters armed with their PVC were brazenly denied the right to vote could be anything but free and fair. This situation rekindles the fear expressed by Akpobari Celestin, a rights activist.
It is sad that people don't learn, from history, because in 2003, there were no militancy in Nigeria, especially in the Niger Delta. But it was this same thing that the then governor gave gun to guys and did not retrieve the gun. That was led to militancy in the Niger Delta. And they have repeated that now in the worst dimension.
Lolo Ibianeye is an APC chieftain in Rivers State. For him, even with the desperation, if Nyesom Wike had won in a free and fair contest, the APC would have congratulated him. The position of the APC was for people to be free to come out and vote for a candidate of their choice. Lolo laments that the blood that was shed meant nothing to those who perpetrated the act.
If the whole state we had taken the same desperate step to look at the gun as our only hope, I can tell you, River State will be boiling now because it will not end. So some people were desperate, particularly the People's Democratic Party. Two things they were desperate about. One, they wanted to tell the world that the 1.4 million votes they gave to Mr. President actually came out here. It was not a fluke. And so go all out and collect the materials and write what you can and bring it back. And for Mama Khan, I will announce it no matter what.
You should see this election as a challenge and for you to do what is right. I have told you, you must remain resolute, you must remain firm, but you must be polite for you to be able to work well. And I can assure you that at the end of this exercise, we should be able to meet you like this and say thank you for a job well done.
What in fact becomes more worrisome is the role of the federal authorities in the sham called governorship and state assembly polls in Rivers State. It has become obvious that the police and the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, were in concert with the PDP in robbing the people of their mandate. A case in point is that of a divisional police officer who displayed publicly that he had been compromised when he aided the free movement of armed PDP militias and their hijacking of electoral materials. The Assistant Inspector General of Police, Tunde Ogunshaki, who was deployed to Rivers State to supervise security operatives for the elections, got wind of the actions of the DPO and disciplined him. But curiously, the same AIG was ordered out of Rivers on a superior instruction, and the DPO immediately reinstated.
Clearly, that action alone intimidated the entire security network. And so there was just no basis, there was no way for you to even expect any kind of fairness or difference from them in relation to how, they related with matters on the field. So, everybody saw all these things and everybody decided to keep quiet so as not to rock the boat.
What can be more intriguing? The DPO went back into the notorious business of creating safe passage for armed PDP thugs and procuring election results sheets for distribution into wrong hands.
I was around when he was asked to do some things, and he said, look, when somebody was picked up and all that, I don't know who it is, because as far as he's concerned, he's not biased. He wanted a level playing ground for everybody, but some people felt that he will not protect their interests, and he has to be moved away back to his base. And that created an open field for people who perpetrated some acts.
Those who took those decisions were responsible for what happened, because the message was, for disciplining a police DPO, you sent away AIG, then returned the police DPO back to his post. What kind of message are you sending? Under the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the police is a command process. And when you abuse that command, you are saying every other person can go and do whatever hell they like, and that they can get away with it. And that's what happened on election day.
After carefully analyzing this event in relation with the escalation of violence and criminality, it is not difficult to define the unwholesome happenings in Rivers State as a coup against the people. There's a lot more evidence to substantiate this. For instance, the Independent National Electoral Commission had given strict directives to its operatives on the use of the card readers for the election of April 11. It was widely publicized that card readers must be used for accreditation during the election, and where the card readers fail and replacements are not provided before the end of the accreditation period, the elections were to be rescheduled for the next day.
We want to go to court to prove to Nigerians that either Jega told us a lie as to the efficacy of the card reader and the PVCs, or he will be able to tell that those devices did not achieve the desired purpose.
However, in Rivers State, majority of the polling units went straight to manual accreditation because the card readers were either stolen or simply not provided by INEC. This prevented any independent monitoring of the accreditation process and created room for the widespread manipulation of the process and the manufacturing of results even in places where elections did not hold, as a result of violence, intimidation, and diversion of materials.
If Jega has told us that every card reader is attuned to its own particular unit, that means nobody can vote for me. So if votes have been given in that unit, which I claim and I stand by that nobody voted, then that particular card reader should be able to tell Rivers people and Nigerians and the whole world that actually there was no voting there. Remember, Jega did tell us very clearly that for April 11th, there was not going to be any manual accreditation. Two is the fact that the card readers do read numbers. It will also be able to tell us how many people actually accredited and how many people actually voted. The number of voters can never exceed the number of accredited. Three, we were also told that the card readers automatically transmitted that same figure to a central database. These are the things we want to ascertain.
The APC sent a petition to INEC detailing what happened on the 11th of April, maintaining that there was no semblance of election in Rivers State. The facts contained in that petition are not different from the reports of both the local and foreign observer missions.
What happened in Rivers State is a far cry from what elections should be. What we saw did not meet the accepted international standards of electioneering. Not even the ones set by Independent National Electoral Commission, that's INEC. There were cases of deliberate delays, diversions of electoral materials, attack on electoral officers, widespread arson, snatching of electoral materials, killings, voters intimidation, with active connivance of some security agencies.
The collation officers in most of the cases were nowhere to be found. They are the people who are supposed to collect the results, and they are supposed to be the returning officers to return those who have won and tell those who have not won that they did not win. But in our own case, the collation officers were nowhere to be found. because they were in private homes, they were in hotels, and they were just writing results, undermining what had happened in different wards. And so when they churned out these results to INEC, Ms. Jesila Khan was there, the police and all that, were ready to give escort to the results wherever they have been written, finish in the private homes, put them in a police escort, send it to Jesila Khan in INEC office, and she accepts it, and she said, look, we have collected, the person has won. What has happened in Rivers State, it does not belong to even the 10th world country, 10th world.
What may be difficult for anybody who witnessed what happened in Rivers to controvert is the manifest compromise of both ad hoc staff and INEC officials deployed to the state.
Where on earth, after what happened in the presidential election, where on earth would we have had up to 500,000 people coming out to vote in Rivers State? That you now give yourself 1.029 million votes. And one lady sat down there and made it her business, even when external observers, people who are coming from different places to see what's happening, are shouting, this is not true.
We had instances where she was castigating the party in her office, in the premises, and all of those. And for the presidential election particularly, I was walked out of the office on Sunday and was never allowed into the premises anymore. I was not there at the collation. My party was not represented at the collation of the presidential election.
Even before the governorship election, the All Progressives Congress, APC, had lodged several complaints, including a strongly worded petition before INEC, raising concerns over the biased conduct of the supposed umpire resident electoral commissioner, Mrs. Jesila Khan. For instance, there are allegations that it was in fact Mrs. Khan who directed the electoral officers to ignore the use of the card readers and resort to the manual method, which turned out to be the opportunity the PDP explored to perfect the rigging it perpetrated in Rivers State.
There is a lacuna in the security apparatus of Nigeria as regards Rivers State. As a matter of fact, in the elections of March 28th, Rivers State stood out like a sore thumb. Today, Rivers State is making an inglorious reputation. We are saying we are not casting aspersions on anybody. We are saying we want free, fair, and credible elections.
Besides the call for the investigation of Mrs. Jesila Khan, which is the right thing to do, the call for cancellation of the April 11 poll needs not be ignored. This is absolutely necessary because of the damning evidence that the manipulation was taken to ridiculous levels, in which results were written in hotels and homes of PDP chieftains, many of whom have been named.
You have a situation where PDP is credited with about 11,000 votes, and I'm giving about 10,000 votes. And from the results available, even when you add the, let me say, contentious were the 11 results, the scores were not even up to 10,000. So I don't even know where they got that 10,000 that they announced. So it's obvious that they are pulling figures from the air. They're just manufacturing. Maybe these are results they had written before the elections took place.
But people were thumbprinting even in INEC offices. We have videos of people thumbprinting right inside the INEC offices and stuffing ballots right in the office of the umpire. So what kind of contest is that supposed to be? And how do people do these kind of things with absolutely no fear of any consequence, except there is some official connivance or official agreement that it will be tolerated here, even if it will not be tolerated in other places in the country.
Jesila Khan, I find a lot of gray areas in her actions. I give you one example only. When we returned to Port Harcourt, on the morning of Sunday, she announced some units where election did not take place, and elections will be reconducted. One of those areas is Ward 13, Asarito local government area. She said accreditation will start by 9 and end by 2, and then by 2:30 voting will start to end by 5. How come then? How come could Asarito's local government election results be announced around 1:30 of Sunday?
In Gokana local government area, all electoral materials for the conduct of the elections were hijacked and none delivered to the polling units.
In my ward, I'm from County was 6. We have 8,000 votes, so that was a very big block vote, and it was a target. They took the justice and dropped the material in the bush. We recovered them from the bush yesterday. Yesterday was Monday 13th, when we recovered the whole material with the card reader to show how senseless, they were. They were only after the just sheets.
Both INEC National Commissioner and observers, local and international, witnessed the failure of elections in Gokana. Strident protests by the electorate were brutally suppressed by security operatives aided by armed hoodlums. Yet, results have been written by INEC officials purporting same to be the outcome of imaginary elections that never held.
In many polling stations visited around Port Harcourt, up until 11:30 a.m., there were no signs of electoral personnel or materials from INEC. This sent a very wrong signal. For places close to INEC's office in the city, where the materials were stored, we wonder what caused the delays. Was it incompetence, or was it premeditated sabotage? That is, a few kilometers from INEC's office, you could find that the materials were not even delivered. We are therefore shocked and extremely disappointed that INEC rep Mrs. Gesila Khan disregarded the widely reported violent irregularities to begin the process of declaring results.
That position is supported by election observers in their various reports.
Problems have been very severe in Rivers and Akwa Ibom states, where there are multiple credible reports of violence and interference. This warrant further investigation. The number of polling sites at which the process could not be completed for security reasons is not yet clear. It is important that results are not declared in polling units with such irregularities have occurred.
I was in Rivers State a day before the election, and what was playing out in Rivers State there was very scary. Results were being written from information we gathered, security information we gathered. People were snatching electoral materials and all that.
No doubt, the level of manipulation, violence, and killings went beyond the bearable limits of free, fair, or credible election. There is therefore a lot of sense in a call for the cancellation of the results for several reasons. First, because the people were denied the right to freely choose their candidates, and this defeats the very essence of the election.
It is very regrettable that so many people lost their lives during polling day. Elections must be violence-free. Such loss of life is not acceptable. Citizens should be able to express their political will freely without fear for their lives.
INEC has said, come out and vote, not come out and be killed. And if INEC had invited you to come out and vote and you are killed, INEC should be concerned, seriously concerned. INEC is redoing election, doing reruns, saying some places Taraba is inconclusive, Imo is inconclusive. How many people died in that place? For God's sake, people died in this place. Those people did not die by accident. Those people were deliberately killed so that they would not participate in the process. People were arrested beforehand. People were maltreated at the polling units. There are visuals. These are not imagination. There are visuals. There are audios of what happened. So it's not magic. And you did nothing in Rivers State.
For the reason of security, I believe that the elections in those places should actually be revisited and be looked at seriously.
I want to tell all APC supporters, members, to keep faith alive. Nothing has happened. It is just an unnecessary aberration, small time. Truth will always cover falsehood. Always. Rivers State will have a sane government, not a desperado.
Also, there is the need to maintain and protect the sanctity of elections, which remain the hallmark of democracy. To leave it as it is to create a dangerous precedent which the future generation will lament.